Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Wonder Series. It's me, Denise Stegall, your host here of the Wonder Series and CEO and curator at livinghealthylist.com. Go check us out there. Before you do that, though, hey, you're here. It's Wednesday. What are we wondering about today? Our goal here is absolutely to help you to look at life from a different perspective and, look outside the box. What would life be like if you truly looked at it from a different perspective, if you opened your mind to different opportunities and different possibilities and different thought processes? And how could that absolutely affect your healthy, happy lifestyle? You know that when you've been searching for, we can help. So I'm really excited to talk to my guest today, Melissa Rohlfs. She is a holistic health and life coach with Free to Be Coaching. And her main role, what she does is she helps women to feel at peace with their food, their body, and their lives. Because isn't that what's really important today? So, Melissa, welcome to the Wonder Series. So, this is great. So, tell us a little bit about Melissa and how you got to this place where you are helping people in a holistic way.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I was nervous I would forget to say that. So thank you. It's so interesting because as you were doing kind of the intro, it was all about, for me on my journey, having that different perspective and that different mindset and really kind of being open to some things that I hadn't considered before, because I used to look at people who maybe ate organic or whole foods or, healthy, and I would kind of judge them and think that they were kind of crazy and call them granola until I had my own experience where I was like, wait a minute, this is why they do it. So about 12 years ago, I was diagnosed with PTSD from childhood trauma. My husband was traveling for work. Our daughter she wasn't yet diagnosed, but she had sensory processing disorder and was intolerant, had some food intolerances. And we had a newborn baby who wasn't sleeping through the night. So kind of the perfect storm, but all of that led me to meet with a naturopath, and she did vitamin and mineral testing, discovered my vitamins, minerals, everything was kind of tanked because I was living off of sugar and Diet Dr. Pepper, trying to survive as an exhausted mom. And that really opened my eyes up to holistic health and the power that food has on overall health and supplements, and just this whole new journey that I went on because I was open. And so my experience and transformation led me to do what I do now and help other women find that freedom that I found. So that's the short version.
Well, when you said, your husband traveling, you have one child and now a baby that's not sleeping. Yes, I could see why you were living off of, diet soda and sugar. It's one of the things that we all kind of go towards when we are stressed out, is those comfort things, those things that we think are going to give us the energy. So we're actually going to dive right in, apparently, and talk about sugar.
Okay.
I wasn't intending that, but let's do it.
Sounds good.
So when it comes to, we always hear, sugar-free diet, this and all of those kinds of things, all of these new sugar-free sugars. Why? What are they? What's good? What's truth? What's fiction? And how does all of that affect our health and our happiness, our habits?
Yeah, they're so interconnected. So I'm really glad that you asked that. I think the best thing that you can do, I don't believe in one size fits all. So I think the best thing to do is see how certain sugars affect you. I would say kind of overall, the natural ones are way better. That would be your stevia, honey, maple syrup. Coconut sugar is low glycemic, so you're not going to ride that blood sugar roller coaster quite as much. But your processed sugars, your aspartame, your sweet and lows, your equal, stay away from those. Those really are not good for anybody at all. And then the pure white cane sugar is really not beneficial either. But as far as how it affects your health and your happiness, there are so many components. But I think the biggest thing for me was the mood swings. I didn't realize how much the sugar was impacting my mood, and I was all over the place, and I would get that rush and feel energetic and good. And then a few hours later, I would just come crashing down, and I was exhausted. I was crabby. I mean, it was like I was crazy because I was just riding that blood sugar roller coaster. So I think we know the impact sugar has on weight. We know the impact that it has on teeth, but I don't think we think about it in terms of food and inflammation and the way that it impacts our body in other ways as well.
And so you said the big I word, inflammation.
Mhm.
It's most of us in the health and wellness world understand inflammation to a pretty good degree, but I think it's always good to talk about, because everybody always has a little bit of a different perspective and experience when it comes to inflammation. So, most of the time people think inflammation, well, I don't feel inflamed. I don't feel any different, but what's going on inside?
Well, I mean, you can feel inflamed. For me, it was joint pain. I would just feel achy. I think it also causes fatigue. I think it also affects our brains and causes us to not focus, and we don't maybe have clear concentration. It's linked to disease. I mean, there's so many things that inflammation contributes to that again, I think the one size fits all, it's going to look different on each of us, depending kind of on where our baseline is and where we're at.
So actually figure out where our baseline is. Is there a way to assess that?
I think just being aware of like, how do you feel on a day-to-day basis? Like, what is your mood like? What is your energy like? How are you navigating stressors? How are you navigating the day? This might be TMI. Some people would say assessing your bowel movements can be important as well. So there is a food, mood, and poop journal that some people like to use. I think it just kind of depends on what you're comfortable with and what feels good and right for you.
That's funny. I actually have a friend who's a chiropractor, and it's one of the things he always talks about is pooping.
Yep.
And you're in a room full of people, and he starts talking about it, but everybody kind of goes,
Mhm.
I don't know. So I
Mhm.
think you make a very good point. Inflammation, even though we don't think we feel it, we obviously are. It's just manifesting in different ways for different people. And so it is that awareness piece. So let's talk about the awareness piece. How do you help your clients to get to a point where they are aware of what's going on in their body and how they're feeling?
I think it's really just kind of guiding them through the process and helping them create those pauses in the day to reflect on why they're doing what they're doing. I think so many times we operate out of habit and we don't really think about the choices that we're making and why we're doing things. And I think a lot of times if we are in pain or we're uncomfortable, we want to feel good, we want relief. And so we'll reach for the sugar or whatever the thing is that makes us feel good to kind of numb that. But really it's kind of the opposite. What I help women do is really kind of get curious and figure out why they feel that way, what's behind the feeling, and really kind of navigate from there, because that helps us to identify the root cause of what's really going on.
Interesting. I love talking about curiosity, because I think life would be totally a drag if we weren't curious about different things. We wouldn't travel, we wouldn't talk to new people, we wouldn't learn new things, whether it's a new skill, or I'm taking a course right now. It's a positive intelligence class. If I wasn't curious about what it is and how it can positively affect my life, and then of course then my family and my clients, where would I be, or where would we be without that curiosity piece? So regarding that, how does one get curious? Like, what is that, okay, fine, I don't feel good, stuff's going on, I come to Melissa and say, all right, I'm just not happy, I don't feel good,
Mhm.
I don't know what to do, I've tried everything. We all hear that. I've tried everything. What's that first conversation like?
The first conversation is to figure out why they're doing this. Like, why do you want something different? We've got to establish that why, because without vision, the people perish, and you've got to know why you're doing what you're doing. So it's really that, and then finding out more about their day-to-day life and kind of where they get triggered or where they get tripped up, and really kind of helping them be aware. Because again, we're so used to just navigating on autopilot that if we have somebody come alongside us and speak into things from a different perspective, it might completely blow us away because we're so used to doing it, we weren't even aware that we were doing it. And so it's really kind of helping them create awareness around, okay, where am I going, to the pantry to look for relief? Or why am I turning towards the candy aisle at the end of my grocery shopping trip instead of just checking out and going to my car? Like, it's really kind of creating that awareness around the habits.
So it is kind of like stepping back and being mindful about our our habits and and like you said, some of them, are kind of unconscious or subconscious, not unconscious. What is the best way for women to get to a place where they're saying, okay, I'm not doing great, I'm not feeling it, not sure what to do, where to go? What's really that first thing that they need to do before they even come to you? Is it, just recognizing that things aren't good? Or what can somebody who's just listening to us right now, what can they do just right this minute to start to change the habit and create the awareness?
I think replacing judgment with curiosity is really powerful because I think we will, again, out of habit, go towards the cookies or the candy or whatever it is. You can replace it with really anything.
Mhm.
And then after we like do that and the feeling wears off, we're like, wait, why did I do that? And then we beat ourselves up. But if we can stop and just say, why did I do that? What was I looking for? What did I need? And why did I go towards that instead? That can be really insightful because then it kind of helps us identify what's underneath that we haven't been even open to maybe consider or look at, or even know that there was more there. Because so many times we think it's us and we're lacking willpower. We don't have enough self-discipline or enough strength. And really, that's not it at all.
It's interesting you say the word discipline. It's not something that I ever like to talk about when I'm, talking with clients and, in my world here. I was on a podcast at one point, and the thing was about it was really just about discipline, 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 discipline. And I brought a different perspective to that podcast because I think once we say discipline, all of a sudden there's, the walls come up. We're very rigid. And my feel for the way you're working with your clients is it's not a rigid process.
Not at all. Not at all. Because I think a lot of times there is hurt and things that haven't worked out in the past. And when you meet that with rigidity, it puts those walls up, as you said. And we really need to be in a place of openness and willingness to receive. And in order to do that, our walls need to be down. We need to feel safe. We need to feel encouraged. We need to feel supported. And I feel like harping that discipline message just does the opposite effect because we've tried the.
Tell us about you've told us about your story. Tell us one of your greatest successes with clients, when they came to you. Obviously, we'll call her Mary. So I think sometimes when people are listening, they're like, okay, well, I get bits and pieces, but until they kind of can apply it to somebody who's like them, it's harder. It's just kind of, it's words. Yes, I understand that, but in order to apply what we talk about. So let's talk about Mary.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've got a couple of Marys, but the one that comes to mind is she, overwhelmed mom's got lots of kids. One of her kids had some health concerns and really just stressed and frazzled and was continually turning to cheese and crackers. Even though she knew that cheese and crackers made her feel terrible, she kept going to them and she couldn't figure out why. And so through the course of working together, we discovered that when she was younger, her parents and her neighbors, and they would have these really fun, happy family gatherings, and they would serve cheese and crackers. So in her mind, the cheese and crackers signified peace and happiness and no stress. And so when she would feel stressed and overwhelmed and exhausted as a mom, she was going to the cheese and crackers looking for that feeling because she associated that feeling with the cheese and crackers. But instead, they were having the opposite effect. They were making her lethargic, crabby, irritable, having some digestive issues. And so she realized really what she needed instead of the cheese and crackers was some space for herself and to kind of carve out some time for herself to kind of deal with the stress, not take it away because we can't take away our stress, but she just needed some new tools to process and navigate the stress and overwhelm that she felt, as so many of us do.
Well, it's interesting you said Mary and cheese and crackers because it's interesting. I relate to Mary because it's one of my favorite things in the world. And I'll tell you why. When I was growing up, my dad, he would sit at the table after dinner and he would have cheese and crackers. It was always like a block of cheddar cheese, that really orange stuff, cheddar cheese, crackers and pickles. And so it was something that, he would do, like he'd be sitting there by himself and, we were supposed to be in bed or whatever, and he'd sneak us one. And so it was a really, to me, it's something, that I connect with a very positive time with my dad. So whenever I have cheese and crackers, I kind of think of my dad. So it's interesting. So Mary, I hear you. And similar to Mary, when it comes to, dairy, we talked about inflammation a minute ago. We know that they're connected.
Mhm.
And so, if that's the challenge, connecting the two, yes, the feeling, the feeling that you get or from the past, but the feeling that you get now. And as we get older, that changes.
Absolutely.
Mhm. I'm noticing that, with, as I'm getting older, my body is definitely changing, definitely looks different. But also the foods that I can eat, that I used to be able to eat without a problem bother me now. So let's
Diet.
talk a little bit about, let's talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Our diets change as we change. That is one of the very first, like my school, I remember they have like these 9 paradigms of health. And one of them is your diet changes as you change. And I'm like, that's really interesting. Because again, I think it's easy when we're overwhelmed or stressed to get on autopilot and just eat the same thing over and over. And I don't think that really serves anybody. We're kind of like the kids who just want to eat the peanut butter and jelly for lunch every day until we get sick of it.
Exactly. And obviously, that correlates to, especially for women, how we feel in our bodies. And that's kind of a two-pronged thing, I would say, how we feel looking at our bodies, but how our bodies actually feel.
Mhm. And I think too, as our bodies change and we age and we grow and that process occurs, I think it's easy for some people to maybe feel like their body is neglecting them or it's mad at them. And so we create this almost we're at war with our bodies when really we just haven't been taught how to tap into what they're saying and what they need. And so we think that they're mad or they let us down and we carry this resentment and bitterness. And really we just need to change how we view it and say, okay, what do you need? What's going on here?
Absolutely. And again, it's that curiosity piece that we talked about a minute ago. And I
Yeah.
think so much of this, like once one is curious and starts to learn about what their body needs, what they have going on for themselves. And as you say, and I believe this wholeheartedly, it's not a one size fits all. Everybody is different. I mean, look at the two of us. We have, you have brown hair, I have blonde hair, blue eyes, brown eyes, but we still have hair and we still have eyes, but we're all very, very different and unique. So I think it's really important for people to remember that. I would like to touch on the food freedom piece, though. I know that's something that you really work with your clients about, because we're talking here about, the cheese and the crackers and how certain foods, can affect inflammation and the sugar, all of those things. So how can we, avoid the sugar and the cheese and crackers that might be causing inflammation and still have freedom when it comes to our food?
Yeah, I think the freedom is found in knowing and understanding your body and what it needs and what works for you, and really understanding why you're turning to certain foods. Because if you're turning to food to, if you have a craving that's not a physical craving, maybe you need more social interaction or you need more alone time or whatever that is. If you're looking for the food to fill a craving that isn't a physical craving, you're never going to be satisfied. And so we really need to kind of decipher the craving and discover what do we need? What are we really looking for and needing to experience in this moment instead of just turning to the food?
So essentially, it's not necessarily food freedom, it's freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom to think differently, freedom to act differently. Ooh, I love that.
Mhm.
Okay. Would you like to embellish on that a little?
Yeah, it's all about freedom. I mean, because I feel like for me, like so much changed, like the way that I viewed myself changed, the way that I thought changed, the way that I showed up in the world changed. And I really felt free to be my authentic self because I wasn't inflamed and feeling like crud. And I knew what worked for me and what didn't work for me. I knew that I had been able to change and overcome these really really challenging things I dealt with since childhood. And I knew that if I could find that freedom, that other people could find that too. So I think the food is just the starting point that leads to the other avenues of freedom. Because again, as you said, once you replace that judgment with curiosity with food, it can transfer to so many areas of your life. Like I've become a better parent because I'm not judging my kids and I'm getting curious on why are you doing that instead of you shouldn't be doing that. I mean, it changes so many dynamics with so many things.
I love that because most of us are really so focused on the food piece. What am I eating? What can I eat? What can't I eat? And I think that's always a huge struggle. And of course, as soon as we say, oh, I can't eat that, then of course, that's the thing you want the most.
Of course. And how much brain space does that take up? I mean, I wonder how much time I wasted just thinking about food, what I could eat, what I couldn't eat, what I should have, when I should eat, how I should like it was almost like obsessive. And so to have that like monkey off of my back.
Okay, well, here's an interesting conversation then. So that was old Melissa. What does
Mhm.
Melissa, the parent, because your kids are a little older now,
Yeah.
how do you still like plan, healthy meals and all of that without getting crazy, like always thinking about it? Because I'll admit that that's something that I struggle with sometimes. I'm always like, okay, we're going to be, what are we going to have for dinner? What am I going to have for it? So if I'm going to have this, then, try to plan out the week. How do you go from that place of not thinking about food and it being so crazy in your mind, like constantly thinking about it, to being able to, plan and bring good healthy foods to the table without thinking about it all the time?
I think it's exactly what you said, Denise. I think that it's planning out the week because our daughter is doing basketball now. And so part of that is she's at school over the dinner hour. And so we figured out that when I pick our son up from school, I'm going to take her a dinner. And so it's kind of like you have to know what's going on in your schedule and you have to know if you're going to be home in time to even cook dinner or if you're going to need to do a crock pot meal. I think it's the logistics and the planning. And so just getting it out of my brain and onto paper and having something that's flexible that I don't feel like I have to it doesn't have to be set in stone, but I know that I have a plan and I can switch the days and I have what I need in the pantry, in the fridge. I think that's been really helpful. But I think just getting it out of my brain and onto paper has been a game changer for me.
I love that you said that because I know for me that's one of my favorite things. That we just had a conversation about it the other day. I may not physically always write it down so like my husband can see it. This is what we're having for dinner this week. But I know because I've written it down, I've done the shopping and
Yep.
planned out. So I think you make a very good point. Getting it out of your head though and writing it down.
Yep.
Okay, so in the last few minutes we have a few more minutes here. What other tidbits would you like to share?
Gosh, I think the premise of your podcast is so important. I think people need to have a different perspective, and I think they need to be open and willing to look at things differently. Because I think so many times all we know is what we've come from or what we've been around, and then we wonder why we're stuck and things aren't working. And if we just have somebody come alongside of us and share a different perspective, it can be really freeing and transformative. So don't be afraid to ask for those around you to help or to speak into your life. Like, just don't be afraid to ask for help and to seek outside encouragement and support because we all need each other.
We do. We're a tribe. And I think we've gotten really away from that. We think, as an individual, we have to do what we have to do alone. And, we're weak if we ask for help. But I think if we look back, we really are, as a species, we started as a tribe, and to remember that we can rely on each other.
Absolutely.
I love that. Thank you. Tell us how clients can find you, our listeners can find you.
My website is free, the number 2, the letter B, coaching.com. So freetobecoaching.com is my website, and that'll have the links to all my socials and all the places you can find me.
I love it. Okay, final last words.
I just want people to know that anything is possible. Like if I can go from where I was in being exhausted and overwhelmed and stressed and angry and living off of sugar to really not feeling like I had a purpose, to being vibrant and energetic and full of life and knowing that I'm living out my purpose if I can do that from where I came from, anybody can do it. And I think so many times people will say, oh my gosh, you've lost so much weight. And I'm like, I don't really care about that. Like, yes, it's been a nice byproduct, but that's not why I do what I do. It's about peace and freedom and helping women find that as well. So it's absolutely possible for you.
I love it. And you started off earlier by saying it's the vision. So thank you, Melissa. I really appreciate your insight today. For those of you who are listening, make sure you go check out Melissa at her website. That information will be in the show notes here on YouTube, and any other information that she'd like to share, that we'll find that there. I appreciate you, Melissa, for being with us. I appreciate our listeners. I say this every week: enjoy, 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 and make good decisions, eat real food, make good decisions, be accountable to yourself first and foremost. And my final last words today are healthy living for a healthy life. Have a great week, everyone.